I'm Sasha, and welcome to Joys on the Menu. Today's essay was first published November 15th, 2024, and it's entitled Everything Always Works Out for Me, Part 2. So I was walking Brownie with my Law of Attraction friend, Coach Kate, yesterday, and she'd read my post, Everything Always Works Out for Me, Part 1. Great job, she said. And you can control how it works out, she said, taking it one step further. That's where I hit the brakes. A, I'm out of the control business on a good day. And B, the idea that actual external circumstances can be shaped by my thoughts as opposed to shaping my experience of those external circumstances by my thoughts. I'm just not there. Part of why I'm not there is a kind of guilt shame combo of if I can control my life, then when it's not how I want it to be, it's a failure kind of thing. And the other part is a sort of aversion to blaming the victim. Like, what about people who happen to be born in war-torn places or places without clean water? Have they manifested that? No. But as I said yesterday, sometimes I'm desperate to feel better more of the time. So even though I'm resistant, I'm open to new ideas or old ideas and new packaging. What we got down to, Kate and I, on that walk, what I could get behind and swallow was that a mental kind of setting the stage or gearing up is helpful to improving a situation. Obviously, I'm just getting the hang of this inner dialogue thing, but it does work if I work it. And that controlling my thoughts is part of the control I can get behind 100%. So I'm here with positivity coach and manifestation expert, Holly Ridgway, and we are talking about can we control our external? Do you really think that we can control our external situation with our thoughts? That is getting a little far out of my comfort zone. Okay, a lot.
The way you say it.
That's just like nano
It
stuff.
does sound far out when you say it because I walk around every day just knowing, oh, my thoughts are influencing my reality. The
Influencing.
mhm. A big
That's
influence,
easier to swallow
a
than
big influence.
controlling.
I did appreciate what you said about the control, right? Because I have spent so much of my adult life trying to surrender and let go, let God, and really just, what's popular now is let them. Like just I'm not controlling
Right.
anything. I'm not trying to manage people or even myself as
Right,
much.
that Robbins thing.
Right.
Right.
And so it has been a funny thing for a few years how I would joke like I teach people control how to control and how to have more control. Then it is kind of does turn into the Tony Robbins thing where it's like, can you control your state? And that means sometimes you just move a muscle to change your thought. Or again, like we talked about last episode, was can you just have a better thought? Not the lottery and unicorn thought, but a better thought. And like you said, you do have control over those things. That was perfect.
Right, right. I can definitely get behind, I can control my thoughts and my actions. And so I guess the disconnect for me or the screeching brakes, no, I won't cop to this, is that if I do that or when I do that, I will get to control the outcome. I think that's too strong.
Mm-hmm.
So is that consistent with like an LOA thing, or am I still not drinking the full Kool-Aid?
No, I think that that's pretty good. I think we get into dropping the also. I mean, this is why it actually becomes really deep work. Like you think
Mhm.
why people resented The Secret and started to see that, just the basics of The Secret was not the whole story because there's a lot of deep work that comes with surrendering control, but also picking up full responsibility.
Okay,
It's complex.
I'm kind of fogging out now, and I bet a lot of our listeners are too. So back it up.
Okay.
Hang on. Here's
The
my
paradox.
question.
Okay.
And keep in mind, I watched The Secret like once, however many years ago when it came out, and I was just like, how nice for them, like whatever. Uh, but hey, if this is going to help me order joy off the menu, then I'm open to hearing more about how it works. So what is this deep work we're supposed to do? And
Well, you're
what are you talking about?
touching on that there are these subtle things. I wish I could remember exactly what you said before, but it was getting into that this is a paradox, like kind of holding two things at the same time is the work. Like,
That's right. That's right. That you are all about, in some respects, letting go of trying to control other people and outside situations, and at the same time, 100% about controlling your thoughts and attitudes about the
yes,
situation.
thank you. Because where I was going was that we start saying we
That is
want something
subtle.
in life. And then we have very definitive ways of how that's allowed to come to us. So we start getting in the business of how. And so that's part of the releasing. Like, how do I be in the surrender?
Oh,
You don't get to say how and you don't get to say when, but you do get to keep being mindful of your thoughts and what you're choosing. The GPS, like you were bringing up a couple of days ago to me, which it's been so long since I read the Abraham Hicks book, and you were saying, set your GPS coordinates. And I talk a lot today about tuning the radio station, to the channel I want to pick up. Like, all channels are playing. Which one do I want to dial into?
right. And my default channel has historically been a channel that is fairly full of fear, fairly tied to the notion that no pain, no gain.
I know that one.
Fairly tied to the notion of, if I'm thinking things will be easy, then I'm either stupid or lazy. A lot of stuff like that, where it's just, if it's not a grind, it's not good, it's not productive. And now I hear all these people talking about, like, I'm just happy and I'm in joy. And it's hard to say, gee, you know, that looks sort of nice, actually. I could order me up some of that.
Right. The idea that you could be happy for no reason, right? I guess a few episodes back, we were talking about, how to insource that instead of outsource that. Because you are looking, I mean, I did too. The people at The Secret, it's like, oh, you went and test drove some cars and then you had a Ferrari. Sure. I don't think that's exactly how, it's not exactly how it went. I'm being very sarcastic. But it's like, oh, glad you got the stuff. It's easy to be happy when you have the stuff. And I think what you and I concentrate on more is what Abraham Hicks says is get happy first.
Uh,
And that's the big mystery. Well, how do I get happy when I'm not happy? And then how do I not want the thing I want? Right? Because it's,
oh yeah, good one. Um, I was talking to a friend of mine a while back, about her kids, and something was going on at their school that she didn't like. And I was like, well, what if it were okay? What would it feel like if it were just okay for your son to be having an experience where he didn't like his teacher that much, and learning how to deal with that? What if it were okay? And she was like, but it's not okay.
right.
I love that, because
It wasn't on the menu for her to find a way to,
reframe it
right.
and say, oh, he's going to learn how to deal with someone who's not his favorite person in the world. and be okay anyway, or whatever story one could
Right.
tell that's better
Right.
than my
Sure.
kid's gonna die if his teacher isn't 100% his favorite person.
Right, that's beautiful. And some of that is I and I know some people say, "Oh, well, you're just wanting to put frosting on poop." And that's not the name of the game either,
Gross.
but it does become I wonder how you could support him through that to have the greatest growth possible, because we are going to encounter people in our lives in places of authority that aren't our favorite people. How do you support him through that?
Actually, okay. So I did kind of make a vow to not talk about my actual son. Okay, so a friend of mine,
You did say a friend of yours.
well, no, that was actually a friend.
Oh.
And so is this one, a friend of mine's
I see.
daughter
Love it.
was having trouble with a teacher, and my friend coached her daughter to act as if that teacher really liked her and just pretend that that teacher was going to be so excited to see her show up for study hall.
That's deep.
And she did it.
Advanced.
And I mean, I don't want to be like the person who took the Ferrari for a test drive and got a Ferrari, but as a mother, I know that having a kid have a good experience after thinking it was going to be a bad experience is kind of better than a Ferrari. It actually was a good experience. And the daughter came home feeling like pretty proud of herself that she'd had the courage to show up to this teacher who she was convinced thought she was stupid and lazy and ask for help and get it and be kind of praised for doing that.
Nice. And that is actually the advanced next level stuff. And surprisingly, it goes back further than to this is kind of Neville Goddard's work, which, recently Kate, the person on the walk, and I have been talking a little bit about bringing Sasha into more Neville Goddard stuff. And you just literally said exactly how it works and the stuff that he talks about, because it is imagining the other thing. I mean, all of law of attraction is imagining the better thing and saying the next better thought. Neville will actually have these exercises where if you want the promotion, you're not just imagining, oh, I got the promotion. I'm worthy and deserve the promotion. And I'm at a celebration dinner. I'm with my friends. I'm imagining, like, it's next level visualization.
And also, this isn't a real word, but I'm going to say feelization. It's not just what it looks like,
Yes.
but it's what it feels like imagining or feeling into actually sort of programming my inner GPS to arrive at the destination of, for me, it would be pride and relief and yeah, enjoyment of being part of the team and just all those feelings of accomplishment.
Perfect. And that's the basis of real law of attraction. And what they did, that what they were pointing to that in The Secret, absolutely, because it was to really have that feeling and then add details in as it can feel realistic. Now, the trick is surrendering so that you're not always saying, okay, I did the thing. Where is it now? Where is it now? Where is it now? Because then your message to the universe is, I don't have it. Where is it?
Yes, I think we're really getting somewhere now, Holly, because when you were speaking before, and when we've talked a lot about changing our thoughts and actions to change our feelings, that sounds sort of like not that exotic to me. This is basic kind of CBT
Yes,
therapy
nice.
stuff. Like now we're in my world, baby.
Yeah.
Dan Siegel,
Uh-huh.
Alessia Aleppo, if I'm
And the
pronouncing
science
her
is catching up with this. You're
right.
absolutely right.
Yeah. And so, but now this is getting a little like a new nugget, a new tool, which is
Mhm.
tuning into the feeling that would be resulting from having things go my way while being open to everything working out for me, not necessarily exactly as I had planned, but everything working out for me to put me in a feeling state of joy. for example.
Precisely.
So a lot of the time, I have craved certain external things, like visualization of external things, to get a feeling. And then when I've actually gotten those external things, they didn't give me that feeling. For example, I used to visualize having a desk in a big office building with a fabulous view. Well, guess what? I had that. I actually had a couple of secretaries and a big view, even bigger than what I had visualized. And I was in the suit with the shoulders and everything. And I realized when I was visualizing it, the feeling I had was one of power, potency, and being supported to help others. Like, which is also a thought, but it was the thought of being this sort of powerhouse on behalf of others. And being in that wrapper, in that context, actually didn't feel good for me. I enjoyed the tools I had, but honestly, now I'm powerhouse helping others in sweatpants on my sofa.
Hmm.
And that feels much better.
And authentic, right? Because you were powerhouse potent on the behalf of
Well, let's not get into
a
that. Yes.
company and
Yeah.
yeah,
Companies. Yeah.
and a culture that really, wasn't your highest excitement, let's say.
That's true. I do prefer helping human beings, actual individuals feel better more of the time, particularly in their family dynamics and their business dynamics. But any business with more than one person is a family dynamic,
Right, pretty much. Yeah.
an interpersonal dynamic. Okay. So, so now we're talking about programming the GPS for an emotional destination.
Hmm.
I would like to feel joy, and letting go of how we get to that state to some extent is one option.
Right. And Abraham Hicks' very, very basic premise is feel the feeling first. And I think, again, I just said it, and so did you. So that it's not visualization, it's the feelization. Can you get to the feeling first? And, then what people are up against is, there's real stuff going on here. How do you want me to feel good about it? Well, I'm not necessarily saying feel good about it, but you can reach a state of presence and satisfaction with what you have. And I've certainly been I have been at a couple times in my life at a juncture where I had nothing and I was nobody, nowhere with nothing. And I was able to reach a state of gratitude and peace for my life, my breath. I wasn't hungry. I could find a roof over my head. I've never been without those things. And that good feeling, they say, and I have been a testament to, it really parlays you into something else nice happening. And whether it is your reticular activating system or whatever mode of psychology it is, and I actually believe that the structures of the universe, the atoms, actually rearrange themselves. Let me get as woo as I want. I think that the atoms of the universe will rearrange themselves to meet your expectation. Um, that
That's another episode. That's another podcast. Holly, come on.
Let's keep it basic.
Let's be on Earth. Come on.
on earth on earth there's still this, I get to create it, but I also have to surrender it, because if I am trying to figure out how it's going to happen and when it's going to happen, now I'm placing constraints on the universe instead of there's 1,000 ways and paths for what you want to come to you.
Yeah, and desire is actually not a bad thing. Desire is helpful. That was a new one for me, as opposed to craving and desperation. I can want something without it being scary. And also, that's part of the self-acceptance and part of the letting go of negative self-talk. It's safe to assume that what I want is not only reasonable, but is good for me and for others. That's a big one. When you were talking, it reminded me of an inner critic coach I had once, Neil Allen, who's great. Neil, one of his prompts is something like, what would it feel like if everything were okay? And I love that kind of phraseology because it doesn't ask my inner critic to release control. It's
That's a
like,
quality question.
yeah, what would it feel like if everything were
Love it.
okay? Like, are we even willing to imagine what it might feel like? And honestly, I have encountered people who are like, but it's not okay. They're just not ready to do that, enter into that inner dialogue.
Now,
And
I
that
do.
and like love to them.
And real quick, I will speak to the piece about because I would go through that as I was, analyzing my own navel through therapy and doing all of the things and clearing all the blockages to letting and allowing myself to be happy and have desires is that I would start feeling guilty and self-indulgent about I can't believe how privileged we are to get to do this because there are people starving in other
Oh,
countries
geez,
or
that
there's war-torn countries or I'm not thinking about what my birth patterns were if I'm just going to the well every morning, walking a mile to get water for my family. And so it would really, really bog me down with wanting to move on from this and let me just override this and this is silly and move on with my life. But then I also have a commitment now and I understand a lot that that's none of my business, that I need to think about how I can affect the ripple in my pond. And while I want to be knowledgeable and aware, I'm powerless over that from where I am right now. When there's an opportunity to affect change on the other side of the world, I do try to be knowledgeable and to know and to vote with my dollars and my actual vote. But what can I do right now for the people that I interact with and for my little corner of the world? And that does mean I'm going to do the self-care and the good self-talk and have a full cup so that I really do wake up every day asking God and the universe, whatever you want to call it, how do I be of service today? Where would you have me go? Who should I meet with? What should I say?
So basically, what I'm hearing is that a lot of what we're talking about here today is not that esoteric, is not that crazy, that this is really a lifestyle choice because none of us is going to suddenly be like, yes, joy is on the menu, and I'm ordering that all the time. And now I'm always in a state of productive, blissful love. No, we're human beings. We come from wherever we come from with our own set of inner dialogue that's set to whatever station it's set to. And the real tipping point, if you will, or the jumping off point is to say, you know what? I'm going to try a different channel and see if I like that music better.
And then, like you said, noticing and working with the resistance to that is the whole show. Like, that's so good.
Well, it's definitely part of the show, but also I think for me, doing the channel switch and seeing how I like it, even if I have resistance,
Mm.
is really helpful. And just saying, yes, of course I have resistance. I'm going to do it anyway and see how it goes. Or as I often say in my blog, I'm going to give it a whirl lightly. And I can always get a full refund on something that's free. So, anyway, thanks, Holly, once again for bringing your light and love to me and to our listeners. And joy is on the menu. I hope you order some today. I'm going to.